Good morning. So I started the morning or bright and early preparing for the show at uh, a Green Bay diner, and nice people recognized me, came over. Everybody just had two topics on their mind. One was they wanted to sort of microanalyze what's the name of that lady from Massachusetts who's in the leadership?
Kathleen Clark.
Kathleen Clark. They wanted to microanalyze the things she said yesterday, pros and cons and strategy and tactics. Very sophisticated group. And then many were in tears over the building of the White House ballroom. So we'll talk about those topics and more this morning on the morning meeting. Welcome, everyone. This is our morning meeting. Dan, Sean, and I will take you through the day. If you're here on the two-way platform, want to get in the conversation, all you got to do is raise your hand as the song goes. Dan, how are you on the ballroom today? You fired up on the ballroom?
Sure, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sean, I don't
Ready to
always,
dance.
Sean, I don't always agree with Don Jr., but this morning I do. He was on Fox and Friends talking about the ballroom and the reaction to the destruction, the wanton destruction of the White House orphanage. They tore down the orphanage. They didn't even give the orphans ample time to get out of there.
There was a bald eagle in there too. There was
Yeah,
a bald eagle, a
yeah,
nest of them.
yeah.
Yeah, so
Ladies and gentlemen,
misdirect.
ladies and gentlemen, I will be talking about the White House ballroom pretty much all day, including my monologue on Next Up, because I remain confounded by how emotional people are of the tearing down of the East Wing.
I don't
I'm
know
not,
if it's
No,
I'm not
I'll
being
tell you.
critical. I'm just
I,
confounded.
I'm with you. I literally was starting to write my Friday column already, and I'm writing it entirely about the ballroom and using clip after clip after clip of
I think
Yeah.
I
all
think
these
you guys
Democrats.
are missing I think you guys are missing the mark a little bit on that. But
Please explain.
Okay. Happy to have you.
I think I think one of the biggest issues with it is the fact that he outright lied about touching the building.
Come
Mark, you're
on.
rolling your eyes, but it's like so many other things.
But Dan, that's my point. It is like so many other things that
But
he's
you
lied
were
about. He lies about things of massive consequence. And they're
right.
not as
So
and they don't get as emotional about that as they
because
are
be,
of the
because people
pictures.
don't have a connection to an individual going to a jail in the Congo or sending somebody
But they have a
out.
deep connection to the East Wing.
Yeah, because the White House is an American institution. Like everybody looks at it, everyone has their own kind of connotation with that building. Again, I think it's an overreaction, but I do get the symbolism of one of the great literally pillars of the country, the White House, right? And he
I
did
I
he
I
lied. He lied. We all agree about it. He lied, right? He is funding it with we heard yesterday
yeah
that part of Google's settlement with him was
yeah.
$22 million to this. Again, if Kamala Harris was doing this, certain networks would explode.
I don't
Explode.
I don't want
They
to.
are,
I
just to be
Yeah.
clear.
Yes, yes.
They
I don't
On
are.
want
the
to.
other side, they are.
I
Yep.
don't want to toot my own horn, and I don't want to jinx
Yep.
myself. But my monologue is going to be a barn burner. Wait till you see what I have to
Look,
say about that. Yeah.
by the way, just can I just here's the beauty of it. If they listened to Dan and wrote what he said, okay, maybe. But every headline this morning is
Exactly.
President destroys White House.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. No,
Exactly.
I agree. I
Dan,
agree.
I should frame it that way and not roll my eyes. Just what Sean said. Everything you said was right on point, totally. But that's not what they're doing. They're
I hear you.
talking about as I can't remember anybody's name.
I mean,
Well,
I'm
that's Trump
literally
derangement syndrome.
What's the name of the woman who was on Two Way Tonight last night?
Yeah.
What's her name? Jesus. Somebody's
I
gonna
mean,
have
the
to help me.
irony is the
Anyway,
ballroom is
come
kind of
on.
necessary.
As
I
we
mean,
said,
that's of course
yes, correct. Beverly Halsberg. As Beverly
Beverly
Halsberg
Hall.
said, democracy dies in demolition.
Oh, did
Right?
he?
That's a good line.
by the
Democracy
way,
dies in
watching,
demolition.
but it's almost like I hate, again, I don't promote the New York Times very often and I don't promote Jim Acosta, but please go watch his video because it's so beautiful watching him melt down. Like he's like, democracy is being destroyed. Like
Yeah.
that's maybe the
Yeah.
dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Yes.
I agree on that front.
Democracy dies in demolition. All right, I got to get that Jim Acosta video. Thank you for that tip. All right,
Yeah,
here
it's
we go.
good.
Here's the day book. And again, raise your hand if you're here on the two-way platform. Want to get in the conversation. What I don't want you to do, what we all agree you shouldn't do, is put smack in the chat on the
Never.
YouTube chat. Please, no smack in the chat. Please. Peace, love, and understanding, presumption of grace to all. Here's the White House pool for today. Our good friends at National Review Online, part of the pool, and I get to be part of a big announcement because here's the president's schedule.
3
He's
p.m.
got one event today, 3 p.m. announcement in the state dining room. I don't believe we know what that announcement is, but it will provide excellent fodder for two-way tonight, which, by the way, live on the two-way platform at 4 p.m. special time today. And then we'll stream live on YouTube, or stream on YouTube at 6 normal. And then 1 o'clock, an opportunity for a Caroline Levitt briefing. Look forward to that. There'll be a lot of questions about, you guessed it, the destruction of the White House orphanage.
Actually, that will be fun to see the balance in the briefing room
Yeah.
today. How did they handle it? Because I do wonder if
70% ballroom. There'll be some questions on, say, Ukraine, but 70% ballroom. The vice president, I believe, just went wheels up from Israel. I believe I saw that on Twitter. But he spent the day in Israel, second day, doing a bunch of stuff, including meeting with Bibi amidst some controversies. There's a float of the two things being reacted to. One is the float that there'd be two Gazas, one where there'd be construction controlled by Israel, and then Gaza controlled by Hamas wouldn't get any of the construction money until Hamas surrendered, and then the Israeli parliament making a provocative vote about annexation. So things seem on track there.
Kind of like Germany and Korea. They're just going to divide it and
yeah, for now.
Put a wall up. Yeah.
For now. The tag team.
Do you remember when they tore down that wall and destroyed democracy? I mean, that's so similar to what's happening now.
Exactly. So as Vance leaves, Rubio shows up in Israel with an American delegation. Again, Witkoff and Kushner. I don't know if they're going back or they've stayed the whole time, but they'll be there. And Jamieson Greer and Scott Bessent are in Malaysia to meet with their Chinese counterparts. The House remains out. And again, 10 o'clock, Mike Johnson, another press conference. 12:15, Ron Johnson advances, the Senate rather begins consideration of Ron Johnson's bill to pay active duty military and working federal employees. It's expected, as I said, I believe yesterday, to not pass, but we'll see.
This to me, this is one of these.
Democrats are going to offer one to pay everybody.
Yeah, to pay everybody, that definitely won't pass.
By the way, this to me is an inflection point today on a messaging front. Whether or not,
hold on. You talking about the shutdown? Hold on, we'll get to it. We'll get to it. Keep running through the schedule, and we'll get right to it. Rand Paul, Gary Peters are hosting a bipartisan lunch in the Kennedy Caucus Room with a menu inspired by the states of Kentucky and Michigan. Let's face it, two of our top 50 culinary states.
Yes.
There, if you're not listening to the podcast, but watching on YouTube or here on the two-way platform, is the invite, 12:30 lunch, Kennedy Caucus Room. Kentucky-style fried and baked chicken. I've been to Kentucky, ladies and gentlemen. There's no baked chicken there. Mashed potatoes and gravy, fried okra, Michigan cherry salad, and blueberry crumble bars.
I got to be honest with you. That's
there have been reports they're going to
menu I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It's the what menu you've ever seen?
The worst enticing. I might try a little fried chicken. The rest of it, I don't. There's nothing exciting.
I like a good blueberry crumble.
Really?
But, yeah, I do. But we'll see.
Heavy for lunch.
Let's make a guess now. How many senators come to that thing of 100?
Well, you could do the dine and dash where you come by, you get yourself a fried chicken.
How many make an appearance in the room of the 100? 40. Sean?
I'll go over that. I'll if it's prices right rules,
I'll go under. Dan has exactly 40. I've got 0 to 39, and Sean.
I'll take 41.
41 to 100. Okay. Mr. Zelensky's been in Brussels today, meeting with European Council officials to talk about stuff. Biggest news of the day in the last news cycle, really, is Russia. Bigger, believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, than the ballroom and the destruction of the White House orphanage. Because big new oil sanctions from the U.S. They'll be evaded, but it's a big sign. There's Wall Street Journal story about tomahawks, and the president went on Truth Social and denied it and called it fake news. But really, I think what's happening, reading between the lines and talking to one official, is U.S. intelligence. The U.S. is greenlighting the use of European missiles by the Ukrainians and will provide intelligence help. So step up there. And then the Europeans also putting on their own sanctions. So, Dan, I'm not saying the president watched the morning meeting yesterday, took notes on everything you said and said, let's prove Turrentine wrong. But they seem to be stepping up and doing exactly what you said they wouldn't do, but that they should do, correct?
Ish. I don't put much stock in the economic sanctions because China's still their partner. So whatever needs they have, I think they can continue to access. The military one was interesting. British missiles that apparently can go like 200 miles or can go 200 miles. We've greenlit using them because they rely on our GPS systems, and we've given them permission to launch into Russia. So that's something. The Tomahawks go 10,000 miles. These go 200, but still, it starts somewhere. Okay, like now let's keep doing it. Let's keep funding it, because at the end of the day, the only thing that Putin wants is territory. It's the only thing he cares about.
Sean, one of the great errors in judgment made about the president in this term was that he was creating a rupture between the United States and Europe that was unfixable. In fact, there seems to be a lot of shared sense here and unity and more effective unity than the vaunted Biden, Blinken, Sullivan suck up to Europe.
Yeah, look, I mean,
I don't know about that.
I think this, look, Russia's response tells you that this was serious. I mean, they came back hard at this, meaning that clearly they feel it's impactful. So I think you can argue that if they could have gone further or whatever, but the bottom line is both economically and to some degree militarily, they tried to they definitely upped the game. The military thing I think is getting a little cute by half because, as Dan said, we're a little pregnant on this, and we're like, oh, well, we're not, these aren't our missiles. We're just telling you where to use them, how to use them, where the intel suggests will be impactful. It'll be interesting how Russia reads that. But look, you can't argue that he didn't step it up, and these will have an impact on him on Russia.
Dan, just to clarify, there was plenty of unity between Joe Biden and Europe. They just didn't end the war.
Yeah, well, you can't end the war unless you knock Putin back. I mean, Trump hasn't ended the war, right? So, I mean, nobody's ending the war because ultimately Putin doesn't care about sanctions and all this stuff.
Well, let's see. Let's see if they do.
By the way, can I just
go ahead.
To your point, Mike, I mean, look, in all seriousness, Democrats and a good number of Republicans have been asking for this type of stuff for a long time. Okay. And where are the headlines this morning in the newspapers and the morning shows? It's Ballroom here. And oh, by the way, before we get to traffic and weather, here's what happened in Russia. This is so out of whack where the priorities of the mainstream media are, and frankly, the Democratic Party. The idea that they're spending more time talking about the construction of a ballroom than something that they've claimed is a priority for years.
Well, I think part of that, though, is Trump, and you alluded to this earlier, goes on True Social and kind of says, no, we didn't, right? So, I mean, part of this is...
But I think he said, no, we didn't, because he doesn't want to be in a fight with Putin directly when he doesn't have to be. Because we're not sending them tomahawks. The U.S. isn't giving them tomahawks.
I agree with you. That was why he does that. But I think we all agree. Trump has changed his public position 5 times in the last week. Yeah. So if you're going to write about it, you need some consistency to be like, aha.
Also fair. Fair. 2 quick things. First of all, I'm very sympathetic to how upset some of you are about the destruction of the East Wing. I truly am, and my tone is based on just really confused about why people are so upset about it. But I understand that you are. Don't mean to disrespect those of you who are very, very upset. The other thing is I don't read the chat, but I do glance at it. One of the things I love about the two-way community, guys, I don't know if you've seen this, but people are kind of upset that we haven't done the Fairway and Green promo yet. Find that kind of amazing. Very nice. People demanding the advertisement. So here it is. Ladies and gentlemen, our great partnership with the folks at Fairway and Green. They make the finest golf apparel you ever did put on. 5 different brands under their umbrella, but Fairway and Green, flagship brand, products are incredible. And you can get, as a spokesmodel Sean Spicer is wearing, our own personal Vanna White, a morning meeting logo, a two-way logo. And Sean, you got anything on the sleeve there?
No, yeah. But here's my quiz for the day. What Fairway and Green color is my beautiful polo here?
I'm going with midnight blue.
Dan, want to weigh in on that?
Navy, French Navy.
I would have agreed with either one of you in any other world, but this is what Fairway and Green calls Mari. That's right, folks. Mari.
Yeah, probably would have guessed that if I'd given 10,000
I didn't know that was a color.
I didn't know it was a color either. Yesterday I wore a bottle.
Anyway, if you want to look like Vanna White or Sean Spicer, the best thing you can do, it's just a linear move. Go to tway.tv/fairway and avail yourself of the discount. It's 2way20. Use the promo code discount 2way20, 20% off site-wide, including the very handsome two-way and morning meeting gear, but also anything else you want on there. And I recommend it all. As your fellow community members have testified here, It is the most comfortable stuff you'll ever put on. It's
I had a
so well
beautiful
made.
quarter zip out
So well
last night,
made.
and someone
Yeah.
walked up to me and said, "I is gonna guess that's Fairway and Green," and I said, "It's
Yeah.
amazing how it's become part of the brand."
Yeah. All right. The shutdown, ladies and gentlemen. The shutdown continues. And still a lot of focus on November 1 when various things happen in terms of benefit cuts and rate increases on the insurance side, where people think, well, maybe there'll be some movement there, but others say maybe not. Here is Speaker Johnson on Squawk Box moments ago, 120, Paul, talking about the notion of a vote on extending the Obamacare benefits by 1 year under the careful and close questioning of Mr. Joe Kernan.
I think everybody saw New York Congressman Lawler confront Leader Jeffries with a 1-year extension. And now I understand that 13 House GOP lawmakers, led by Jeff Van Drew, Jen Kiggins, did send you a letter saying we should do a 1-year extension. I guess that's what they're proposing.
Well, they did, but in the letter, they acknowledge what I just said, that it needs real reform because
is that a way this ends? Is that a way this ends, Mr. Speaker, or that's not what happens, you think?
Well, no, look, Joe, it's a very important point. We were always planning. We always knew that October and November would be the time to figure that out and build consensus around the reforms and get everybody together. But it's ironic that the Democrats have shut the government down and prevented that from happening. That is the whole point. We need the lights back on. We need government reopened. We need troops paid, TSA agents, Border Patrol agents, and air traffic controllers, and Veterans Health Services, and nutrition services to young women and the elderly. We need all that going while Congress is here doing its work. But Chuck Schumer and the Democrats are playing politics, again, because they need political cover for themselves. It is selfish and it is dangerous.
So, October 1st is over a week away, or November 1st,
November
rather.
1st.
Sean, do you expect any movement before November 1st, or we just sort of see where we are November 1st?
Well, so as I said earlier, I think today's vote could be interesting on a messaging front. How many Democrats break to pay active duty military and what they call essential employees? And so remember, we need, what, 5 more. Do we pick off 2?
Well, maybe, because you don't necessarily get the ones who've been voting to
That's
the
true.
seat
True.
of the
Yeah.
CR.
Okay, fair. But I have a feeling that Fetterman is going to, I mean, fair enough. We'll see. But I guess that's the broader point. Let's see what today's vote yields. Do Republicans in particular put their foot on the gas on this and make a big deal out of the fact that they had an opportunity? Now they've really sort of, I was watching a couple news things this morning. I mean, you've got people sitting in food bank lines right now. Especially a lot of active duty military, and there were some reports on the TV showing it. And the more that gets picked up, I think it starts to put a lot more pressure if Republicans can message and sort of highlight this more. Does that do that? Or, as we've said, this November 1st issue is when a lot of states are saying the SNAP benefits are going to probably expire. That, again, a huge Democrat constituency. I know this is crass talk for some because it's politics, but those are the reality inflection points. And so does that. But I think we're in this point now between today's vote and that November 1 when I think you're going to start to see some fraying.
Dan.
Yeah, I agree, because you now have Democratic governors saying, detailing the SNAP benefit problem in their states, that they're running out of money. The number of people in these states that rely on these benefits to feed themselves, to feed their children, to feed their families. At the same time, there is increasingly press in states about healthcare rate increases. And so I think, again, for crass politics, as Sean said, I think Democrats will say to themselves, look, we've elevated healthcare as an issue for 2026. It's now in the press about the problem that we've warned about and been wanting to deal with. So mission is accomplished on that front. And we got to cut a deal and reopen the government. I don't think anyone wants at Thanksgiving stories of SNAP benefits not being paid out, TSA lines getting longer. So I think that in the next week, there may not be a deal, but the contours of it are going to start gelling. And I think once it does, this ends fast. And then my big curiosity is, how does the base treat Schumer and Jeffries?
Yeah, can I just, to Dan's point, I will say this. if we get past November 1st, you cannot, as a politician, even think about having Thanksgiving dinner
Yep.
if you still have a government shutdown. The
Agreed.
optics are horrible.
Yep.
So we are starting to get to that point where there's one gate after another that you need to get through, and it's just going to become more and more untenable to have the government closed.
Yep.
Dan, I agreed with everything you said, with one exception. I don't know that it's going to go fast. In other words, I think sometimes the leaders make a deal, and then it turns out the rank and file don't go for it. So I could easily see a kind of a tentative deal, and then it turns out the votes aren't there in one chamber or the other.
Okay.
So,
interesting. Maybe. Yeah.
Sometimes it doesn't go as fast as we think when it goes from the leaders to everybody
Mark,
else.
do you think Schumer's going to come out of this now in decent shape?
He could.
They reopen. There's some ACA.
He could, because as one of the newsletters, I think it was Punchbowl, pointed out this morning, the caucus is pretty unified. You don't hear a lot of carping about it. He's kept them informed and on board. So I think he'll have problems with some of the net roots for sure. But if he doesn't have problems with the caucus, I think he's probably fine. All right. A group of notable figures from around the world. What do these people have in common? Hold on. I got to get the list. What do these people have in common? Steve Bannon, former Joint Chiefs of Staff Chairman Mike Mullen, rapper will.i.am, Meghan Markle. There's the old thing. None of them have ever been in my kitchen. That's one of the things.
They all wear Fairwayne green.
Exactly. What they have in common is they've all signed on to this letter. Hundreds of prominent people from around the world. It's warning that there needs to be a slowdown on super AI because we can't get to the point where AI is smarter than humans, and they want the world to just stop and say we need to evaluate this. Proposals like this have been around, but this one is getting a fair amount of attention. What's also getting attention is a campaign ad made by the digital video team of Cuomo's campaign for mayor of New York City. You could never make an ad like this without AI because it would cost you $2 million. But here's just a little clip. It's an ad about kind of spoofing what Mamdani's New York would be like if he were mayor.
But Mamdani says you're free to go.
Woo-hoo! Who cares if legalizing prostitution statistically leads to an increase for sex trafficking of women and young girls by 70%?
You can't have safety without equality.
For unlawful abiding citizens like us, globalize the intifada.
I'm a criminal. I'm a criminal. I'm a criminal.
I'm a criminal.
Yep. I'm a criminal.
For Zoran.
For Zoran Mamdani.
I didn't have a real job until I was 30, but sure, give me the keys to the city. What's the worst that can happen?
Paid for by Cuomo for NYC.
All right, now there's some controversy over the video. They've taken it down. They may put it back up, but that's not the point. The point is that's an incredibly powerful use of AI. And people have been predicting this. I wrote a whole article about it regarding the presidential election. It really wasn't a dominant thing. But guys, in 2026 and 2028, there's going to be an explosion of AI-generated ads, including not just by campaigns that color mostly between the lines, but by random people to try to get attention. So, Dan, how worried are you about this, or you just think it's a great explosion of creativity?
Both. I mean, I think there's no way for the United States to say, halt this, because you'd have to get China and India and Brazil and like the whole world to be like, yeah, you're right. And by the way, for our own national security and war machine, we won't out in the desert keep working on this because we want to win. So I think the reality is it's going to keep marching forward. There's another story today about I was unaware of this, how potent the issue of energy consumption is becoming in local elections, because these giant AI centers are consuming massive amounts of energy, which of course drives up the bill for everybody, right? There's only so much energy to go around. So how AI impacts the future, I think, in terms of public policy, the contours of what as a country we're comfortable with and not, it's going to be part of our politics. And I don't think one side owns this issue. I think both parties are a little like, how do we touch this?
Sean.
Yeah, I just have this visualization of all the people that signed that letter standing on a mountain as an avalanche kind of is coming and then being like, slow down. Like the horse has left the barn, folks. Writing a letter telling everyone to just stop is not exactly going to be impactful. We're already there. It's happening. It is, to your broader point, I'm very concerned about this. Kids and people are using it all the time already. Obviously, this is going to really take hold in politics. This is just the tip of the iceberg. By the time we get to the 2028 midterms, this is going to be really a big thing, not just for the candidates, but where you really get into this is outside groups who are less accountable, who will do a lot more, press the envelope, push the envelope on so many of these things where the candidate can say, hey, that wasn't me. That was a super PAC. I had nothing to do with it. But I think we're going to get really bad really quick. And by the time we get to the next presidential level, this is going to be, we'll look back on this tape and say that is hysterical. That
I don't even think it's going to be super PACs. I think it's going to be the person in their basement who is an avid supporter. And what's going to happen is candidates are going to be asked, hey, there's a photo of you and Mark Halperin, in a photo line last week. And now, Dan went out and made this video. Do you stand by this video? Do you stand by these? And both sides are going to be constantly like having to deal with these headaches.
Yeah. All right. Stay tuned. We'll talk a lot about this in the coming years. Raise your hand if you want to get in the conversation. A few more topics. Mentioned the New York City mayor's race debate last night. Pretty widely believed that Cuomo had a great debate, Curtis did it. Probably the best debate Cuomo's ever had, at least as far as I've ever seen. Mamdani was sweaty. He was defensive. He was evasive. Did it affect the race? Well, it hasn't yet. Here's the poly market. We'll poly market where we are now, and it's virtually identical to where the market and the poly market bettors had things before the debate. 92%, almost 93% odds of Mamdani winning, but it did get people fired up on the Cuomo side. Cuomo was smart. Went to the Knicks game right after. Got a lot of very good coverage. We'll see what happens today. Curtis watch. Sliwa not getting out of the race. Here he is this morning on CNBC Squawk Box talking about Bill Ackman, political pundit Bill Ackman, number 112, please.
Bill Ackman has been wrong every step of the way about this race. And naturally, he wants me out of the race. So he makes these charges against me. Yes, there are matching funds. And I've raised more money than Andrew Cuomo in matching funds from New York City donors. So, Bill Ackman, keep wasting your millions. Give it to Andrew Cuomo. You gave it to Eric Adams. You haven't been right about anything here. This is a guy who's at a midlife crisis who goes up to Newport, Rhode Island and thinks he's a tennis pro and he gets booed off the court. Well, guess what, Ackman? You're getting booed out of the political court. Stay in your lane, focus on Wall Street, your hedge funds, and let the people decide who the next mayor is. That's what our democracy is. But I never was taught in school that all of a sudden...
All right, the debate didn't revolutionize the rate. Curtis isn't getting out. Sean, just confirming the race is still over? The parrot's still dead?
Yeah, I mean, 100%. In fact, if I were him, I would start looking at artwork for Gracie Mansion.
Dan, where are you on the poly market? Are you higher or lower than 93%?
I'm lower. I'm curious to see, because I think people now are starting to pay more attention, if last night and some of these ads now move people. The interesting thing for Cuomo is you can't put that out, take it down, and then kind of try to weasel out. If you got to own this.
Well, they took it down because of one screen.
Yeah, whatever. But you should be front foot.
We'll see. They put it back up.
Let me just ask this, because I'm the guy at 100%. We're 11 days out from an election. I believe early voting has now started in New York.
Starts Saturday, I think.
Okay, starts Saturday. I don't get. I cannot imagine a race that, and I'm doing this off the top of my head, that has shifted in like from student council up by the amount that would have to shift in this race in any race in history.
It depends on three things as far as I'm concerned. It wouldn't be any race in history. First of all, Curtis has to collapse, which is less likely because he's had two great debates.
He's had good debates, yeah.
So Curtis would have to collapse, number one. Number two, Mamdani would have to make errors. Now, I will tell you, last night he was so evasive on some really basic things. Let's see if that works its way into the bloodstream. But he'd have to be, people would have to pressure him. So, for instance, I'll be curious today if reporters on the trail go back to him, assuming he takes questions, and says, last night you were asked of your position on 3 ballot measures, and you said like you hadn't decided yet. Well, what's your position? Like, he was evasive on things he doesn't want to take positions on. And if he's pressed, let's see if he makes a mistake. And then finally, we have to see if the Cuomo operation, from the negative ads from the super PAC to the get out the vote, we have to see if that's worth 5 points. It could be, I don't know, but it could be, depending on what they have and whether the Mamdani thing is like Howard Dean 2004.
I just have a hard time feeling like if you're, I mean, you'd have to have $1 billion, because New Yorkers, to me, I don't get the sense that you guys like the tactics that work in other places. New Yorkers are on the go. They're the you get up, you go do this, you're like what advertising tools are at Cuomo's disposal?
Well, the super PAC could.
Don't forget, Mamdani's still at 46%. He's not at 50.
Exactly.
He's not.
In almost any poll. All right. If you're interested in the sort of the best analysis of the Virginia races, AG and governor, and the New Jersey governor's race, I recommend Karl Rove's column in the Wall Street Journal and Tom Edsel's column in the New York Times. They're both excellent. Okay, Plattner, another day, another set of controversies. First of all, some stuff, more Oppo. The people who are putting out that Oppo are super sophisticated. And there was stuff he wrote that was anti-gay, LGBTQ, and they gave it to the Advocate or the Blade, I forget who. The Advocate. They gave it to a gay-oriented publication, which did an interview with him in which, once again, he said, "Oh, I didn't mean it. Everything's great." It's really damaging stuff. And then he had his tattoo fixed. And the boys at Pod Save America are still all in. Bernie's still all in. Here is another direct-to-camera. I'm just a normal guy who went to GW and worked for, what's it called? Can't remember. Anyway, here's Plattner explaining his tattoo change and warning some viewers might find many of these images disturbing.
And I got this to cover up the skull and crossbones.
All right, go ahead, play the whole thing. Start it over.
It's come to my attention that it has a stark resemblance to a symbol that is used by neo-Nazis. And I want to say that was not the intent at all. And the idea that I've been going around with something like that utterly horrifies me. I know that symbols like this can be incredibly damaging to people, and the idea that I've had it all these years and it could have been read like that is incredibly troubling. I have lived a life dedicated to anti-fascism, anti-racism, and anti-Nazism. I think that racism and anti-Semitism are a long scourge on our society and a long scourge on our politics. And I think it has no place in our world. For that reason, I have gone and gotten it covered up.
Oh.
Last night, I went to a tattoo parlor and I got this to cover up the skull and crossbones.
Okay, Bernie Sanders is standing by him. Here's Bernie explaining why 107.
You said yesterday you are still supporting him. Why?
I'm not overly impressed by a squad of media running around saying, "What do you think about the tattoo on Grand Plattner's chest?" Between you and me, there might be one or two more important issues. But let me go there. I'm not Graham's best friend. I met him several times. We did a rally in Portland, Maine, a great rally. I am impressed by the guy.
Okay. Now, I don't read the chat, but I glance at it. I see people put in the chat, he's cooked, he's dead. Here's some polling on the race. Here is 118. This surprises me. And obviously, some of the Plattner stuff is new. Plattner, 58. Janet Mills, 24. Dan, why is, this poll does not fully, I don't even know what dates it was done. It obviously doesn't fully reflect this full controversy. But why is Plattner so far ahead?
Well, look, two things here. One, prior to all this controversy, there was a lot of talk about his narrative and his authenticity and his plain spokenness. So all the kind of attributes that in a candidate you would look for in today's age. The second thing now that I'm beginning to wonder is the Democratic Party becoming a little bit the way Trump was in 15, which is whatever he says, whatever he does, and the media says, aha, that's it, you're done. The party says, nope, we're standing by this guy. We believe in him for A, B, and C, D reason. It is possible, and we've said, I don't think he's going to get out of the race.
Yeah.
That this is going to harden his supporters, make them dig down and work for him harder.
Yeah.
And Janet Mills looks like the establishment, Oppo research and all the things to discredit.
Sean, here's what I'm confused by. Schumer worked hard to get Mills in the race. Right? Now, that poll does not, at least they haven't put out general election numbers, but they must have done polling before they decided Mills not only would be a stronger general election candidate, but could be the nominee. If that poll's even close to right, what is the DSCC thinking to send, and what is Janet Mills thinking? She's running up against the Plattner buzzsaw.
That's what the Oppo research is about, right?
Well, to try to correct it, but did they say get in the race? We'll drop all this Oppo and we'll kill him out? Like
I was just getting. That is what would be my take.
Yeah,
sorry, Sean, it's to you.
A couple things on this. Number one, the key in this, and Dan can correct me if I'm wrong on their side, but when you say Chuck Schumer and the D-Trip or the DSCC, the thing that I always find interesting is sometimes the chair or the leader. I mean, obviously the Schumers has much more sway than anything else. There are days when they dig in, they say, I know the right, like this is the best candidate because they think they know better. And they force that decision on the committee and saying, we will get behind him. I'm in charge, right? So I think it'll be interesting if there's ever a bit, the story in my mind is who's really pushing this, who calling the shots. I get the sense that Schumer is, and Schumer is saying traditionally, this would be the right thing. The governor would be awesome, right?
Of course.
And not this newcomer Oysterman dude who I don't know, and he's not beholden to me.
I would think all that would be sensible until you see a poll like this that shows Plattner kicking her butt.
Right.
But I would also, sorry.
Can I, there's two more things that I want to say about his response, because this is again where, so one, he came out and said, this was his text before he did the video, which was, I made a stupid mistake. I went out and got a skull and bones tattoo with my Marine Corps buddies on Liberty, right? That was his quote. Here's the thing. A simple search on the internet of skull and bones does not look like what he has on his chest. Okay, that's number one. Number two, wrapping yourself in the cloth of the Corps. You better hope that your brothers and sisters that were in the Corps, that were at those tattoo parlors with you, agree with you, because here's where the shoe is, I think, going to drop. Someone's going to go out and find a group of folks that he was stationed with that went to that tattoo shop and said, yeah, we thought it was funny to get this or that. And if that story doesn't hold, he's in big trouble. This was a rookie mistake where he's starting to wrap himself in his unit and say, we all went out and got tattoos one day when we were on Liberty. And I guarantee you there's one or two people who aren't going to buy in on that story.
Fully agree. And that's not Graham Plattner's top 10 problems. But
I think, Mark, though, what may have happened at the DSCC is I'm curious because you said this in our pregame, there's no head-to-head with Collins. So it could be that Mills is leading Collins and Planter loses by 10 points today. And they said, look, here's the pile of opposition research we have on Planter.
We'll take it. Plattner. Right?
Exact Plattner. We will grind him down, disqualify, discredit. You stay focused on Collins. Let us take care of your opponent, which is, I mean, this is how you have conversations to recruit a candidate, is to reassure him or her that, like, this is what all the tools we have that we will spend for you. Yeah. Just could be they misread the primary.
By the way, but here's the other question is, if you're someone like Janet Mills, right, and reputationally you're looking at what we just showed and laid out, and at some point you're like, do I really at 77 years old want my career to be ended by getting shellacked by a dude?
Totally agree. Totally agree. Again,
so we'll see how. I mean, there's a lot more chapters in this.
And does she have the stomach to lean into this? Will she hit the stump and keep hammering? Hey, this is what he did, and this is what he said. Because some candidates don't have the stomach.
She probably assumes she doesn't need to because there's more coming, and he'll get out.
Exactly it.
But your Trump thing's brilliant, because if you just resolve, I don't care if they have video of me shooting someone on Fifth Avenue, I'm not getting out. At some point, it's self-fulfilling. All right, two quick things because we're over time and we want to get to your questions. One is great story in the Washington Post about Barack Obama getting more involved, not just in the redistricting efforts. Did an interview or conversation with Gavin Newsom yesterday. You can watch it online. But generally, the story says upset that there's not more resistance to all the things Donald Trump's doing that he doesn't like, including redistricting. Good story. Lastly, New York Times has a profile of a guy named Brian Chen, who lives in China, who learned how to speak English by watching Friends, and that's just where everyone around the world learns to speak English. And he's an extraordinary, does an extraordinary impression. They're all over YouTube and Instagram. Here's Brian Chen of China.
Nowadays, a lot of good stuff is made in China. Everybody knows it, right? But somehow in other places, things made in China end up costing more. I don't know why. I don't know who did it, but frankly speaking, it's a little messed up. It's a little messed up. That is why today I've come to the very source of Chinese production. Shenzhen, look at this. Look at this building, look at the streets, look at the vibe, look at the people. I love it. So powerful, so energetic, so clean. I love it so much. Where do you recommend me to go to make the most of my trip? Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Anyway, they're all over YouTube. I find it compelling. He should be on Saturday Night Live this week. That's my prediction after Lauren Michaels reads his New York Times. Time for your questions. Thank you for being part of the two-way community. As I call on you, please come on in and tell us what's on your mind for Sean and Dan after you tell us where y'all at. Where all y'all at? All right, here we go. Joe, welcome in. Thank you for being part of the two-way experience. Joe, you getting any of those tats covered over today, or are you just keeping them clean?
Sorry, unless one of them gets flagged, then no, I'm all right.
All right, they look good. Thank you for joining. Where are you, man?
I'm in Seymour, Connecticut.
Seymour, Connecticut. Dan,
Are
where
you
is
on a
Seymour?
bike?
Yeah.
Hey, he's getting his miles.
I see you rocking side to side there.
Dan, where is Seymour, Connecticut? Do you know?
I believe Seymour is to the east of New Haven, over between Stonington and New Haven. Is that right?
Yeah, New Haven County. I'm like 20 minutes from Sally's Pizza.
Yep.
Yeah. What toppings do you get at Sally's?
Honestly, the cheese is the go-to, but they got a potato, not mashed potato. It's almost like they slice and layer like thin potato.
Yeah. Are you an anchovy guy at all?
Nah.
Nah.
Not
Okay.
really, not so
All
much.
right. I like the anchovy.
Potato on pizza. Come on.
Trust me, it's good.
Yeah, Joe, welcome and tell us what's on your mind.
Thanks. I just had one quick question for you, Mark, and then just a general
yes, sir.
question for the group. What flavor was the protein cookie?
Oh, the protein cookie was white chocolate macadamia nut.
Oh, I love it.
And follow up on the bars from yesterday. That guy who came on didn't do his brother a big favor. He had the name wrong. So the picture we picked up is a company.
I was trying to order those.
Yeah, that company ran out of business 2 years ago.
That's why I couldn't find them.
The reason I know is the brother, not the guy who came on, but the actual brother doesn't own the company. He's an advisor to his friend's company. He got in contact with me through social media, and all I can say is stand by, everybody. The bar experience is about to get intense.
Thanksgiving is going to be awkward.
So Joe, stand by on the bars, but that's the answer on the protein cookie.
No, my general question to the group was, as somebody who voted for Trump the first time, he wore me out within a year. Just again, I like most of the stuff he does, but I just got fatigued with him. Just the nonsense. Didn't vote for anybody the second time because I didn't feel any good options, and then I voted for RFK Jr. this time as more of just like hey, I'm in Connecticut, so it doesn't count, and it's just like a protest vote. But do you think that at some point, the people who eventually, whether it's like a Vance Rubio ticket, are they going to start looking at him saying, you might want to shut up a little bit because you're going to start tainting whoever is going to be the eventual nominee, or is he just incapable of tempering anything?
John, or Dan, go ahead.
I think this is one of the big questions. It goes to the caller who came in, or I think it was earlier this week, about Vance. And I've said this before. I don't think Trump is going to allow Vance to go out and run his own campaign. I think he'll tell him, he'll try, but I don't think Trump can help himself. He's going to be Trump. He's going to be 81 years old at that point. You're not teaching him. He's not going to suddenly change. And I think he's going to micromanage. And anywhere JD Vance, tries to separate and heaven forbid criticize, I just think he can't help himself.
Sean.
Yeah, I'll take it the other way. I think the people, the base, the MAGA base is completely loyal to Donald Trump. And so it's not just a question of what comes down, it goes up, right? If you're out there trying to court it, the people who are hardcore MAGA, then you're looking to that bat signal to figure out where Trump is, what his view is. So I think he is here to stay as long as he's in the game.
Interesting. Joe, thank you for coming on. Great question. Really appreciate it.
And by the way, when everyone says, measure the curtains for Vance, this is part of the issue that we don't know about in 3 years. If Trump is popular, it's an asset. If Trump is not, it's a massive liability.
Yeah. You guys ever heard of a Shark News? ASHARQ?
No.
They cover the Middle East. Their Washington bureau chief, Hiba Nasser, just tweeted this. Cairo is hosting talks between Palestinian factions to reach a Palestinian consensus as part of the second phase of Trump's plan. Came to my attention because my friend Jennifer Jacobs of CBS News retweeted it, so I assume it's legit. So that's interesting. Hadn't heard that anywhere else. At least I hadn't. John Carroll, welcome in. Thank you for being part of Two Way. Love the hat, love the beard, love to know where you are and what's on your mind.
Well, thank you. That's probably the best intro I've gotten. So I appreciate it. I'm down here in Spring Hill, Florida. So it's starting to get a little cold down here. Thank God. I'm tired of the heat and the sun down here.
You're a native there, right?
Where is Springfield, Florida?
Spring Hill, it's about 45 minutes north of Tampa.
Okay.
But to quote for Sean, yeah, no, I'm not a native. I'm reluctantly originally from the People's Republic of New York. So
yeah, I kind of guessed that.
Yeah. I had originally I have a question and I had a joke I was going to say about the hypocrisy of the media on the White House construction, but just to point out a quick thing on the whole thing with Plattner in Maine is, it's funny. I'm a history nerd. One of my degrees is in history, and World War II is one of my biggest ones. You're talking about it, Sean, like you said, there's the skull and bones, like people know about bikers and pirates, but yet the exact one that Plattner got is the exact skull and bones that the SS wore, like on their covers right here, the Totem covers, it's called, or the Death Head. So it's hard for him to weasel out of that. So I just want to make that fun point. But it's still crazy to think he's beaten the governor of Maine in the polls by that much. So
crazy.
I don't know what's going on with Maine Democrats.
Yeah.
The real question I had was, what do you think the DNC is thinking about this whole New York City race? Bear with me for a second. You look at this whole thing with Mamdani, it looks like the Democrats will win no matter what, whether it's Cuomo or Mamdani, most likely. But, they got the New Jersey governor's race going on right now, and it's being viewed as neck and neck. Yep. Next year are the midterms, and then you saw how Trump did in New Jersey this last year, and now you're looking at this, and they're worried about a lot of people fleeing. I could tell you, I know some people in Florida real estate, they're looking forward to all the New Yorkers moving down here, as you've heard the puns. But like legit, how many people could be leaving and moving to New Jersey or moving to Pennsylvania that are Republicans? But also just in general, could Mamdani do such a bad job that next year New York and New Jersey Dems do bad in the midterms? And then in 3 years, could New Jersey actually be in play? I think that's pushing too much, but it's getting closer than they want to be feeling comfortable with.
Sean.
There's actually a bit of an irony, right? If you think about it post-COVID, the people who weren't happy with the policies, which were probably right-leaning folks, moved, making it a little harder from a mathematical standpoint to overcome that disadvantage they already face. So there's a little bit of that. I think look, New York's gone. It will, unless you get another billionaire that rents the R, which is what Bloomberg did. I don't see you're going to see another Republican for quite some time. New Jersey is an interesting thing. I think that we've always said in the Republican Party, New Jersey's the Lucy with the football, right? We get excited. We'll see. Yeah. I think Ciancarelli's the best person to possibly do this, to take it off. If he wins, and I think there's a very good shot that he pulls this off, that changes the entire dynamic electorally going into 2028. It just does. I mean, like, you would be stupid not to put money in on either side, one on the Dem side to protect it, or two on the Republican side to take a shot at it. But we'll see. But this definitely could be interesting, because you look at those electoral votes shifting one way or another. That's a whole new dynamic in terms of how to get to 270.
Dan.
Yeah, I we'll see about New York. I mean, there's so many variables here. Where I live on the Upper East Side, yes, there's people talking about moving to Florida. My own wife, texts me about the tax deltas here between everything. But on the other hand, as you know, a lot of people, myself included, love New York City, and I grew up outside in the 80s when this place had a lot of problems, but it's still home. New Jersey, I think, is really interesting because Karl Rove makes this point. It's not just does Cheryl win. what if Trump's the margins and the improvement Trump made with non-white working class people continues to show up in Newark, down outside of Philadelphia, right? A lot of working class people who can't afford to live in New York, right, go and live in Hoboken and Jersey City in the same, with Philadelphia. You have the kind of upper middle class in the center part of the state. Let's say Cheryl wins by 3 points, but Trump or the Republican nominee shows this is durable, right? People continue to leave the Democratic Party. I don't know how you don't make a play for this state. You're just making Democrats have to spend money in New York City, right? And Philadelphia, which they're already doing. But
I'll say this: Dan made this point yesterday when we were on Megyn Kelly. If you're thinking about the first district in New York, Long Island, a couple of those seats that the Democrats really need to take back the House majority, and suddenly you're trying to go after, Nick LaLota's seat or something like that. They're going to go, yeah, look at what Democrats do. Here's Mamdani. Like, he is going to be a weight around all those guys in the outer New York City burb areas, Westchester County, where they're going to be trying to look for seats to take over. And Mamdani is just going to become the new poster child for what Republicans are going to paint as the Democrats.
Particularly on that police stuff, right? Those are the people that come into the city to go to the theater, to go to dinner, to come in, with their children. And if he starts messing around with police and stuff like that, then they're going to say, to Sean's point, that's who you're electing, and they'll undo the border. They'll undo, all the stuff that Trump will say is an accomplishment.
John, thank you. All right, two New Yorkers with different perspectives on.
Dan, are you from New York?
Just about everything. Dan's from New York, aren't you, Dan? Maybe I made that.
I mean, I know he's in LA, but are you originally from New York, Dan?
No.
Oh, Dan, I'm
born and raised in LA.
For some reason, I thought you were. Screwed that up. All right, bi-coastal members of the community with very different views. Dan from LA, Max from New York. Dan first. What's on your mind, then Max?
No, I know you keep bringing up the White House East Wing thing. I think what you may be missing is that we were just coming off of the Kings rally where 2 million more people came out and protested. And I think, the destruction of the East Wing is kind of just a symbolism of what Trump is doing to the rest of the country. A lot of the things that we don't talk about, like what he's doing at the Smithsonian and the Kennedy Center, all these things that he's taking away, destroying, that's what people are reacting to, the imagery of that.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that, Max. Well, Dan will respond to you in just a second. Max.
Yeah, on the building or the remodeling of the East Wing, Dan, I keep hearing you saying that Trump lied. I think the problem that you have is that for 4 years, while Joe Biden was walking around with Depends and drooling on himself, everybody stated that he was sharp as a tack.
Not everybody.
This is the best Biden I've ever seen. That's a Joe Scarborough. KJP said she had to rest up to keep up with him because his gait was like Carl Lewis in 1984. So I don't think that your Trump lied. That doesn't work anymore. That dog doesn't.
Yeah, I would say the opposite. You can't keep bringing up Biden now. Like, Max, do you think Trump lied on this?
I think he's a construction guy, and as a builder.
No. Max, answer the question.
I think he probably misspoke.
I think he changed his mind.
I'm with Mark. I actually think that originally the plan was to do this, and then they realized they're going to connect it. So I think the plan initially,
the plans that would never be made public.
Hey guys, stand by. Switch over to Fox News, please. Thune's on. I think Byron York has said, and I agree, it should have been explained better, and the president explained it kind of half-heartedly yesterday. Let's listen to Thune real quick.
If you live in a state that's represented by Democrat senators, call your Democrat senators, tell them to open up the government and let you get paid. It's that simple. And if you're if you're in a state that doesn't have a Democrat senator, call Chuck Schumer. Call people who have it within their power to end this. Every Republican, not every, all but one Republican are voting every single time. We've had 12 votes now to open up the government, and the Democrats have block voted against it. We have had a few, I should say. We've had 3. We need 5 more. As you know, it takes 60 in the Senate to do anything consequential. So we're at 55 right now. We need just 5 Democrats to do the right thing for the American people, and hopefully somebody will.
All right. Senator, please come back as this goes
Okay.
on. Hopefully it won't
Thank
go
you for
on
that.
too much longer. We love having you
The
on
only,
the show.
the only thing I
Okay.
wanted to
Thanks,
add,
Dana.
the
Yeah.
big thing that I don't think you guys are watching on social media, Instagram, TikTok, X, there are a lot of people posting about the elimination of their SNAP benefits and in a very, very visceral way. I think that's something that is not being covered and something that will rear its ugly head, because there are people who come to first, if they don't have their SNAP EBT cards, will go and steal to feed their families. And I think that's an optic that I don't know which way it affects more. I don't know if it affects the left or the right more, but that's something that I think should be looked at, because that's going to be a
Republicans can
problem.
come back to Washington and do their job and open the government.
Well,
Hey, Dan, hold on. Can I just ask Dan this? No, I've asked this before, but Dan, let me just ask this. If Thune literally said, "Hey, Dan, what is exactly that you want me to do?" Answer that question. What should they do today?
We should secure health care for the Americans and just make sure that it's not just a 1 year plan that after a year the Republicans are going to take away.
Okay. So even though the Democrats created this problem, right? I mean, they're the ones who
I don't think they created this problem.
No, that's a
I don't agree
fact.
with that.
It's actually it's not debatable. They put a sunset in the subsidies. So I mean that's not debatable.
Well, but all right, here we are.
Not a single Republican voted for this. You can slap your hands, but that's a fact. The subsidies were passed by Democrats with no Republican help.
believes that.
They sunset, huh?
Nobody believes that, John.
Oh, okay. Wait, whether you believe it, it's a fact, though, right? I mean, tell me if
there
was a
keep
vote.
saying, yeah, John. At the end of the day, it's a problem that has to be solved.
No, but that's not my point.
But you can't keep saying. I mean, it's like Max bringing up Biden. You own it now. You're almost a year into.
We don't own anything.
Republicans don't have a plan for health care. You never
we own lying. We own lying when
right. That's a good point. Thanks, Max.
No,
yeah,
when you're in charge, you own things, right?
Right.
Max, the
And we
CEO
do.
can't sit
Right,
there a
but
year
hold on,
later and say,
but
"Well, it's the other guy
wait.
a decade ago."
Hold on, time out. Just to
9
be
months
clear.
ago,
Hold on.
Give a shit.
Time. This is the funny thing about the argument. You're saying we own it, and we are. We're basically saying open up the government. And then you're saying, but you have to fix our problem. We're
John,
not.
where's the plan for health care?
We have one.
You guys, you never have had one.
Ever.
You said
you
would
never
have a
have,
big, beautiful
and
plan,
Speaker
and you
Johnson
never
won't
had
commit
it.
to it. That's
But the problem isn't, we're not the ones arguing that that's the issue. You are. Open the government, and then we'll talk about the problem that you created.
Here's a simple Solomon. Dan, would you take them voting to fix healthcare but eliminating any money to illegals?
You're asking which Dan?
Both.
Yeah.
Sure.
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
There's the split the baby.
I agree.
All right, we settled it. We settled it.
All right.
I'll let the speaker know.
Okay.
Dano and Max, thank you. Max, I still owe you a call, dude.
Anytime.
I'll be in touch. Thank you. All right. Good episode. Thank you all who participated.
Fun.
Today, coming up, 4:00, two-way opportunities. The group chat. Kill that audio. Nina, Emma Jo, Robbie. Dan, are you unavailable today?
I'm unavailable. Our oldest son is having his right knee reconstructed. He unfortunately got hurt.
Okay, break a leg on that, pun intended.
It's already broken.
filling in for Dan, there you see, Michael LaRosa. Nice graphic. Michael LaRosa, Nina, Emma Jo, and Robbie will be talking about today's news live at 4:00. Please join them on the two-way platform. Also at 4:00, another option for you. I will be doing live on the two-way platform then. Early episode, Aaron Parnas of the Parnas Perspective and Ari David, founder and editor-in-chief of Upward News, will join me today at 4:00 to run through the day's news, and then streaming live as usual on YouTube at 6 and on X. And then the Moynihan Report at 7. Michael Moynihan joined by Danny Polishchuk, co-host of the Boycast Chats. Please join Michael at 7. Sean, what do you have also at 6?
Well, today's Thursday, so we got the panel. I'm excited. I'm giddy today because calling it the architecture show. We're going to talk about the East Wing construction and then the Obama Library. We're going to talk about different forms of Yeah, Nan Hayworth, former congresswoman, she's going to join us. Alex Sawyer, Washington Times, and then Adam Gillette, Accuracy and Media. So
give
Am
Dr.
I the one who thinks the Obama library is ugly? I don't get it.
Everyone thinks it. It's
no,
crazy.
that is
terrible.
Everyone thinks
it's
so.
terrible.
Everyone thinks so. All right, later today on Next Up, my reported monologue on my vast confusion that remains still as to why people are so emotionally upset about the destruction of the East Wing. And I will give a sampling of some of what I've heard from you all with your theories about why that is. My favorite one involves a metaphor. So join me for that. And one amongst my guests will be Senator Ted Cruz of Texas. And if you want to if you want to sponsor this program or any other program on Two Way, you have the opportunity to do that. Join Fairway and Green and our other great sponsors and being part of the program. Send us an email, sponsors@twoway.tv, sponsors@twoway.tv. We're very interested in helping you achieve whatever your advertising goals are in a bespoke manner. So send us an email. Let us know what's on your mind. We'd love to have you be part of the program. Gentlemen, have a great day. We'll be back in 23 hours. And remember, tomorrow being Friday, winners and losers of the week, what to look for over the weekend. It's an exciting opportunity for you to be in on the ground floor of a conversation like no other to kick off your Friday. We will see you then.